right, Sci-Fi Express Lane, Jeff Carroll here. Today I'm just going to talk. I've been wanting to talk about it for a couple of weeks, or at least 2 weeks. I know, can't remember how long it goes back, but I was talking to people about kind of making. I need that light. Making my movie, right? Gold Digger Killer, and even with the Harlem Shake and this Fingernails that I just finished writing. Before I get started, welcome to the Sci-Fi Express Lane. Jeff Carroll here, sci-fi writer, filmmaker, comic book dude, and I'm talking to you about today. I'm talking about having a message in your story, and it's not a message in the story. I don't even know how to frame it. I want to talk about representing a message in your story, writing for a cause, writing to inform, all of those different things. Maybe that's better. Writing to inform, writing a fictional story to inform people about a real life situation. Like, for instance, you always see these people say, write a story about, they hear about Lake Lanier, right? One of the flooded towns that black people lived in that got flooded. And people say, I want to bring light. I do this a lot. I want to bring light to this real life situation, and maybe I can write a fictional story about it because that has seriously happened, and I think it is a good thing to do. When I hear all of these historical scenarios, I'm like, just past civilizations. I hear, I think of all of the movies that distorted people's views on those historical truths, right? Or the historical reality. And how powerful those misinterpretations are. And you wonder, could you battle those misinterpretations with a more accurate interpretation or portrayal, right? And it is possible. It is possible. Here's one of the biggest misinterpretation portrayals, right? It's not even a misinterpretation. It is propaganda. It's so far away from truth, it's propaganda. One of the things that my class is dealing with now is what happens when society falls apart, when society erodes or something happens to society. And that is a loaded question because it's really never going to happen. I mean, even in Walking Dead, you still see pockets of groups coming together, and Walking Dead is partially propaganda. One of the biggest pieces of misinterpreted propaganda is beyond misinterpretation. Pieces of propaganda is the movie Lord of the Flies, where there's a group of civilized, well-structured, at least this is the way they portray it, white kids from England in a British school, right? This is a high-level school. These kids are to be the British elite. We don't, it's different than a private school here in America. The way they set you up is not only do you go to these schools, but you're only able to take certain high-level jobs, right? So it's not like I want to go to school to be a lawyer. This is why I went to Harvard. You will be a lawyer if you went to whatever the school is. So this is the school kids. They send them to, they crash. They're flying around the Pacific, South Pacific, and their plane crashes. And they're stranded. Nobody knows where they are. So that's the story. And in the story, the kids demoralize, right? They degenerate into savages, bullying each other, beating each other up, killing each other. And people use this story to kind of explain explain the Negans of the world, to the Negans in The Walking Dead, to explain the post-apocalyptic dehumanization of people. And they'll say our primary, right? They'll say stupid things like our primary behavior is savage. We were savages who were civilized, right? And Lord of the Flies is an example of this, right? People use Lord of the Flies to justify that theory, right? And then when you find out there was a group of kids, they weren't even highly educated. From, I forgot, South Pacific Islander group of kids, right? They weren't supposedly highly educated, right? But their plane crashed, or boat shipwrecked, and this is the story that Lord of the Flies was based on, right? But Lord of the Flies flipped it. The kids in the real story became brothers. They bonded. They became more family. They developed more humane ideas. They didn't become Negans, on The Walking Dead. They became more Gandhis, or more homey, right? And that is almost unbelievable. Now, I get it. Lord of the Flies can be a horror movie, but it is so well accepted that people think that's the way people will behave. So when you want to do something real, right, in a story, to bring out, that's just one thing, right? I look at how we talk about Africa, how they romanticize about the medieval times in Europe. I think there was just one story that came out where they portrayed how they must have smelled due to the lack of hygiene in the medieval times, and that's crazy, but it's real, and so when you see these things, like if you wanted to do a story about Lake Lanier, writing these stories are all good, but to me, you gotta be honest to the story if you don't want to write propaganda. And when I say honest to the story, you got to do your research, and even if it's like something fictitious, or not fictitious, something social, and there's no proof around it. Like, even take my movie Gold Digger Killer, and I'm just gonna throw Gold Digger Killer in here, but I do this in almost all of my movies, right? All of my stories, not movies, all of my stories. Gold Digger Killer is an opinion on the misogyny within the hip-hop community. And when I did it, I was fresh out of dating, 2 years into my marriage, and I reflected on it. And it's definitely my opinion, but I reflected on it. And in the movie, I wrote exact comments and experiences that I had heard of, and then I experienced, and then there was exaggerations built on that, so I multiplied them, right? But because I was doing and had done this firsthand research, it connected with people, right? When you do something that represents a message or whatever, and it doesn't connect to people, it will destroy your project, right? People will say, this is BS. This is, makes no sense. This is why, like, a lot of non-black writers who try to write black stories just to make money because black stories and female stories are there, it doesn't succeed because the people aren't authentic with it, right? They haven't really represented, they haven't really found out and got into it. So whether you're writing about Lake Lanier, what's my story? The Last Harlemite, which deals with Seneca Village and the formation of Harlem. A lot of those things that I'm bringing are things that are from direct research. And the beautiful thing is, you have to become such a well-versed person that you can go out and speak on it, right? So with my firsthand research from Gold Digger Killer, I was able to go out and become a dating coach and speak on it for real. I wrote a book. It happened on Negro Mountain. Most people in Negro Mountain came to me and told me they didn't know the history like I had put it in the book. So if you're going to write a message, right? Not a message. If you're going to try to represent some historical truth in a story, right? You really got to come correct. You got to do your research, and it can pay off. Or if not, it can blow up in your face, right? And you don't want that to happen. But it's a beautiful thing, and I think there are more examples of these things really representing and expanding people's understanding of stuff. What's another one that I did or that's out there? Rosewood, right? John Singleton did Rosewood, and Rosewood is like a seminal movie on the story of Rosewood. A lot of times, and maybe I'll tie this fiction to fiction in replace of nonfiction. But Rosewood is a fictional story, right? But it's set in a real place. And because it's a real incident that happened, yeah, it is, something that people can learn from and then take from that and go out and do the full research. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think is good about it. It is important. Historians do this all the time. Archaeologists do it all the time. Crime scene investigators, they do this all the time. They'll see an archaeological find and they'll be like, oh, this pot was here, this was here, this must be a kitchen. Or they must have gone, can you imagine somebody going outside and doing this? So they're building a story around these things, and it develops a narrative so that people can connect to it. So fiction is very functional in influencing historical research and historical understanding. So fiction is really there. But yeah, let me get out of here. I am not late for work. I'm just here in time. I started my camera late. So, but yeah, I'll think of some more examples, probably do another one on this because it's really important. And people were talking about it because they were telling me that at my signing that they love when stories include historical truths, and the historical truths that they include are done justice, and they are true to those truths. All right. I guess that's the best way to say it. All right. I'm also thinking about doing a podcast where I can try to put some people in the seat here or do something where I talk to somebody else. Anyway, this is Jeff Carroll, Sci-Fi Express Lane. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. Deuces. I'm out.